So now I would like to, or we would like to bring the discussion to a more New Brunswick practice level. Donc, notre deuxième conférence.
So our second speaker is my great colleague and one of my two colleagues at CNNB in practice, Susanne Priest. Susanne Priest. Susanne is an RN and is one of the consultants in nursing practice at CNNB. She obtained her master's in nursing at UNB in 2010. Her career in nursing brought her to work in Canada as well as the States in different positions, management, teaching nurse, and intensive care in neonatal unit, and nurses at the native communities, of which she's very proud. She has a deep passion. I think there's enough weight we can put on passion, but with regards to the nursing profession, and she does it on a daily basis as to the promotion of professionalism among students, RNs, and in her functions as a consultant, she does research on the civility in the profession, for which she has done a large exam of literature on this, and she will share the results of that research with you this morning. Welcome, Susanne.
Thank you, Virgil. Merci. Now, I have a different setup, and so if you see me looking at the computer, it's because I have to manually advance it, and you'll see it's because Jennifer, our communications person, made my presentation very pretty and fancy for you today, and I thank her for that. I want to start off because I am very pleased with the turnout today, and I'm extremely excited that Rosmore joined us. And I also want to say thank you, because I believe, as Roz has said, sometimes that's what we need to say is thank you. And I want to say thank you to my director, Liette Clement, for seeing this and for making today happen. And I want to thank our executive director, Roxanne Tarjan, wherever she may be, for supporting this, for getting on board with the practice department and saying, yeah, this is a good idea, let's go for it and see what unfolds. Oh, okay. So civility. Right now, I know that you may have your coffee and your muffins and everything, but I want you to just pause for a moment. What is the first thing that comes to mind when you hear me say the word civility? Is it a time when you have been treated graciously, maybe in a restaurant, maybe been greeted by a complete stranger, maybe while you've been working in a unit, you've had one of your colleagues come up and offer to help you without you even having to ask them? Or is it the opposite of that? Is it a memory of someone being harsh, rude, that feeling of, I'm going to sink, or so I better start swimming because none of my colleagues are coming to help me right now? For the employers or those in administration or management, I'd like for you to join us in imagining something. Every nurse here in the room, imagine a workplace in which there was no gossip. There was no whispering behind closed doors. Imagine a team on the unit that everyone was sharing information, collaborating, truly listening to what you had to say and what you had to offer, whether you were a new grad or a seasoned nurse of 20 years. Imagine the time that would be saved if everyone really shared information and collaborated, and as I alluded to earlier, offered to help without being asked. Do you think that sounds impossible? Well, today I'm hoping by the end of Roz's session and this session here and our tabletop discussion, we will leave here being encouraged, not discouraged, that creating a culture of civility and increase professionalism in this province is mission possible. So essentially, I want to talk about civility and what this means for us as registered nurses and nurse practitioners. I will briefly discuss, and this is a little bit humorous, the multi-generational workforce and the impact this has on nursing. Research findings on the impact of incivility. And then after I've given you some of the meat found in the literature, I am hoping that we will go into the tabletop discussion. We have 3 tabletop questions that we will come up with strategies that we can take back collectively to our individual workplaces, but we at NAMB can also move forward in creating a culture of civility. So what is civility? I think I need to say right up front that civility does not mean always being perky, always being happy, always being Little Miss Sunshine, because if that's the case, then none of us will ever be truly bona fide civil. We are going to have bad days, bad moments, stressful times. And I think that's just a reality. But what is civility? One of the big things that the literature says repeatedly is that it is an awareness of being polite. So I started saying around the office and to my parents and to my husband, you know, I think civility is, in a way, common sense that's not so common sense anymore. Civility does not depend on liking everyone. We are a world full of billions of people, and we're not going to like everybody, but we can work with everybody. Civility requires thinking before you speak. And if you know me, my tongue is probably my biggest enemy because I love to talk. And so just to share something to prove to you today that I'm not, you know, the walking angel that has civility down packed. Those that work with me know that. I had, at one point, 2 sticky notes in my office. One was right on my computer screen, and one was on the receiver off my phone. And I want to share with you today what they were. One is, a gentle answer turns away wrath, but a harsh word stirs up anger. And the second one, which really, this was the one on my receiver. A fool vents all of his feelings, but a wise person holds a little bit of them back. How many here oh, just one sec. I'm getting excited and wanting to go on. This is another important thing that in the literature is repeatedly said over and over. Being civil does mean sometimes agreeing to disagree. Sometimes if patient safety is not compromised and you can still meet your end goal, regardless of the practice setting, you may just have to agree to disagree. And civility includes what is spoken, but also what is written, emails, text messages, and body language. The eye rolling for a negative connotation, but a smile or passing a colleague in the hallway and giving a thumbs up. Body language is imperative when it comes to either being civil or uncivil. So for a show of hands and for a little bit of engagement, how many here were told the golden rule growing up? Your mom, a teacher? Okay, so that whole concept, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Well, I wrongfully, before reading about the multi-generational impact in the workforce, used to say this all the time. I just need to do unto others as I would like to be treated, you know, how I would like to be treated. And then I read an article by a registered nurse about the titanium rule. Has anyone here heard of the titanium rule? The titanium rule is doing unto others, keeping their preferences in mind, or in other words, treating others the way that they would like to be treated. And this concept comes from the impact of the multi-generational workforce. And so this is what I want to look at just for a few minutes. Buckle up. It's going to be a little bit hilarious. You're probably going to identify yourself in some of these generations, and it's okay. Just remember that we're all good. So the radio babies, now don't point fingers or anything, but we know at NAMB that there are still actively practicing radio babies out there. The radio babies are often stereotyped as being conservative and prudent. Some of us might say, oh, they're old-fashioned. They value dedication and hierarchy. These are the nurses that might still stand when a physician walks into the nursing station. And these are the nurses that will probably only call in sick to work if they cannot even move in their bed. Job changing is not commonplace for radio babies, and they are loyal to the employer. So these may be the colleagues that have worked somewhere 17, 25 years. They're the employer's dream. Then we have baby boomers, and I'm not going to look up because I know that there's a lot of baby boomers in the room. And a lot of literature describe you gals and guys as the leaders of the pack. I'm not kidding. I was like, I don't think I'm brave enough to say that. The leaders of the pack. Baby boomers are known to be competitive, driven, and believe that if you work hard enough and you work long enough, you will get ahead. These nurses may be the ones who pick up extra shifts if they are still in the clinical environment, even though they really don't want to, even though they're tired and they've got a family reunion this weekend. If all else fails, these are often the nurses who will work that extra shift. Or if they work in the office environment, you may see them at their office Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. You get my drift. They're very dedicated. These nurses may also be of the mindset that you have to prove yourself before I'm going to consider you a valuable team player, or I'm going to take what you say as really credible. Now, some of you that are in either a boomer or radio baby generation are thinking, yeah, this sounds pretty good so far. Well, this is where it all goes downhill. The Generation Xers and Ys, and I am an Xer, I admit. And when I read this, I kind of chuckled and I thought, well, all right, we are supposedly Generation Xers, the most misunderstood generation. Aww. And the reason why they say this is because we are the first generation in which single-parent families became commonplace. We are also the first generation in which we saw parents losing their jobs even though they were very faithful employees. We saw politicians being exposed either in the US or Canada as perhaps not being as truthful as they could have been. And so therefore, we learned from a very early age, you need to be self-reliant and you need to be very careful about who you trust. This is what the literature's saying, not Susanne Priest, the literature. Generation Xers value time with family as much or more than time at work. And so this can be perceived by other generations as just not being committed. These are the professionals who would really rather work part-time and bring home less pay. And also, Generation Xers and Ys, as I will say when we get to the Ys, view calculated job changes as not disloyalty, but as strategic in advancing our own personal career. And that also could be seen as not a good thing. So if you are of the generation that you worked and you worked and you worked and you were loyal, and then all of a sudden you have colleagues that are perceived as job hopping, you can see where there could be a respect issue. Now on to the Generation Y. Sorry about this, me having to advance with a mouse. The Generation Ys view authority figures more as a colleague than as a boss. So remember the radio babies started practice where the nurses probably stood up when the doctor walked in the room. Generation Ys are brought up, have been brought up by perhaps calling the physician Joe or Ellen. Hi, Dr. Ellen, or maybe just hi, Ellen, not even addressing them as Dr. So-and-so. And that has been a norm for Generation Ys. Generation Ys are ambitious, but they too are more concerned about personal career advancement than loyalty to the employer. This is a big, big thing. Generation Ys, because they have been brought up and to be, and you'll know what I mean, their parents have really instilled in them, you can be whatever you want to be. You can do whatever you want to do. So therefore, they tend to not feel the need to wait their turn for job promotion. They feel that if they have the knowledge and the education and meet the qualifications, that they too are just as suitable for a job posting as someone with 15, 20 years experience. This generation also expects to be included in decisions, important decision making right from day one. So no need to prove myself. If I have that knowledge and I have that ability, then I am automatically a valuable team player. And that currently is who we have in the workforce. But as the radio babies will be leaving, we will be getting the millennial babies. And even though I don't have a site for them or a slide for them, the millennial babies have been deeply impacted. So they are currently in the public school system and in the university. So they're soon going to be graduating, the millennials. And the millennials have been deeply impacted by things like 9/11 in the United States. They have been deeply impacted by seeing a lot of social injustices come to the limelight. So they are known as being deeply spiritual, and by spiritual I don't mean necessarily religious, but really key to try to fix things. We might call them maybe tree huggers, or they're doing humanitarian efforts. I think of Shauna's daughter going to Mexico, building houses for people. This is very commonplace for them. They are techno-savvy, very techno-savvy. And the thing that I wanted to leave with people today is that the millennial babies, the literature is predicting that feedback, whether positive or negative, on a regular basis is going to be very important for the millennial generation. So if you're giving feedback on a job well done, or maybe this is a way that you could have improved this, that not saving it up for the annual job appraisal or job performance review, but giving regular feedback is going to be imperative for this generation. So I put on here, and I didn't mean to be controversial or anything by putting boxing gloves on there, because I am not in any way trying to insinuate that we're out there fighting. But I wanted to point out that the literature says repeatedly, if you think of the stressed healthcare system, you think of the acuity of the patients, and then you think of the 4 generations that we have potentially all working together on the same healthcare team, you can see how it is a potential battleground for sometimes intentional uncivil comments or uncivil body language, but sometimes it could be simply unintentional. And so that's something that I wanted to bring to the forefront today. So a lot of you could be sitting here and you're either enjoying this presentation or you're not, but you might also be asking, so what? This is great, this is nice, thanks CNNB, but really what does this have to do with me as a registered nurse or as a registered nurse practitioner? Do I really have a responsibility? Am I really accountable for being civil? And to that I say a resounding yes. In 2012 it was mentioned yesterday that the practice department CNNB did revise, Liette Clement set on, there was many provinces worked together in a territory in revising the standards of practice for registered nurses. I put the cover head on the slide because for those of you, I'm a visual learner, so if you go to our website at CNNB and click on the publications button at the top, all of these documents, all of our publications are available. And today I wanted to show you, because we all are required to practice according to these standards, I wanted to show 3 indicators that clearly support being civil, being professional, working as a team. Indicator 3.2, the RN communicates effectively and respectfully with clients, colleagues, and others. Indicator 3.7, the RN is to advocate for. So if you're working in an environment in which this isn't the case, indicator 3.7 says the RN is to advocate for and contribute to quality professional practice environments. And indicator 4.1, the RN is to model professional behavior or professional presence. Now, getting more into the literature, the opposite of civility is obviously incivility. And when I went to the literature, which I have been immersing myself in for months, it was very evident that there's not a lot of information written on civility and being civil. And so I think the mindset from that is that if it's working, why research it? Why look at the people that are playing nicely together or working nicely together? Let's look at the impact of incivility. And it's very clear that there are 4 themes in the literature on the impact of incivility. RN health, the impact of incivility on RN health, on client outcomes, on the workplace environment, and then why employers should be concerned about this. Essentially, what was glaringly repeated over and over and over is that incivility with time greatly impacts not only the psychological but the physical well-being of registered nurses. Coworker incivility negatively impacts and has significant impact on psychological withdrawal. And I'm going to quote some statistics. I apologize right up front. They are from the United States. Research, published research on the impact of incivility in healthcare is very limited, if next to non-existent in Canada. And so this is why I'm going to be talking with some US stats. One study in the United States reported, and I found this so staggering, up to 60%, so more than all of absences amongst healthcare staff they surveyed was due to stress. And another 47% reported that they were spending less time at work because of incivility. They asked and the nurses said yes. 47% of them said, yes, I'm at work less because of incivility. During the CNNB virtual forums and through some of the surveys that I've done over the last year and a half, which I really thank you, those that have taken the time, and in the future when we're trying to communicate, it's for events just like this, we're trying to glean information to find out what's going on out there. Registered nurses and nurse practitioners also supported this fact. And I want to read 2 quotes that really just stuck out at me. One was from a nurse educator, and she wrote, "I often have students miss work due to the treatment they receive at the clinical workplace." And another RN wrote, "I felt sick at the thought of going to work every day. I didn't feel like I had anyone in the office I could talk to, and I began doubting my professional abilities. I got to the point that I was terrified to answer an email for fear that I would say or write something wrong. Eventually, I left my job, and I have found employment elsewhere." Client outcomes, the impact of incivility on client outcomes. Dr. Alan Rosenstein, I have included some of this information on your slap band today, and I'm trying to go fast. I may run like 5 minutes over, but there's just so much information to share. He did a study with physicians and nurses. So these are the only 2 healthcare team players that he looked at. And this was recent, Dr. Rosenstein's work. And he looked at, he linked disruptive behavior and the occurrence of adverse events to clients. He linked it to medical errors, compromises in patient safety, impaired patient quality care, and even patient mortality. And to his survey, almost half of the respondents, so almost 50% of the nurses and physicians he surveyed, and it was a fairly large study, said that they were aware of an event that could have happened and probably happened. So an adverse event probably happened because of disruptive behavior. Another, so that was over half, 19% said they knew for certain that an adverse event occurred because of disruptive behavior. Another research study published by ISMP, the Institute for Safe Medication Practices, many of us know that. This also was in 2012. In their survey, 7% of the respondents had been involved in a medication error that they contributed back to lack of professionalism, incivility, or disruptive behavior. 49% on this ISMP survey also reported that past experiences with intimidation, so if you think incivility, place intimidation on your colleagues, 49% admitted that intimidation from a coworker, be it a physician, a nurse, a supervisor, did alter the way that they approached clarifying a medical order, clarifying their understanding of what was really going on with the patient, clarified a prescription. That sense of intimidation, 49% of us admitted in the United States, our colleagues in the United States admitted that yes, it did cause me to think twice and sometimes not even clarify. I just winged it out of fear. Sorry. The workplace environment, it's very much linked. It's similar. It may seem like it's overlapping a little bit, but the environment, the workplace environment, it has, in the United States also, there's been research to show that bullying is evident in a situation where there's uncivil communications or uncivil work relationships. And also, they have done a lot of research to show that there is also psychological withdrawal, which I mentioned earlier, trust issues, a sense of intimidation, as we've mentioned. And this was another thing. Team members having key information, but withholding it and not sharing it with the rest of the team. Today I wanted to give a little plug. We are giving away 2 of these books. If you go to our table, you can fill out a ballot form and we're going to draw it at the end of the tabletop discussion. Okay. And the reason why is 2 nurses wrote this book. It was published last year. The Real Healthcare Reform, How Embracing Civility Can Beat Back Burnout and Revive Your Healthcare. I apologize, it is only published in English. I think it's because it's from the United States. But these 2 registered nurses really do a wonderful job, and it's not just statistics and global information in the sense of what can we do as an institution or as a unit. It's got self-quizzes, it's got things to make you think as an individual, as a professional, okay, and it's like, it addresses things like what makes a great team or what type of team player. But what I really liked about this is they offer statistics, but they also they take it down to the personal level. And during the lunch hour, you're going to see some stuff running across the screen. I have taken information on your placemats. Some of the information written there, it comes from this book. So I really encourage you to visit the table today. But I just wanted to quickly, I'm almost done, give a few things, some statistics from this book. 1 in 20 of us admit to having had a fight with a coworker. This is what they report. Up to 60% of us as registered nurses have admitted that our absences have been because of workplace stress. So again, a very high number. 12% of nurses in one study, 12% admit they quit a job because of a toxic work environment or because of incivility. On the flip side, though, this book gives interventions targeting incivility, and there are actual research studies in the States that showed when an employer or a unit actually attacked, I'll say attacked in a nice way, of course, in a civil way, incivility head on. They stopped brushing it under the carpet, stopped turning their eyes the other way because no one wanted to rock the boat. The research has shown that the civility interventions, the surveys pre and post, that the employers, they rated their job satisfaction higher. They rated their workplace as less stressful. So even though it might be a high, acute, intense, you're working your butt off kind of unit, the staff rated their job stress level regarding the actual physical stress as less. I found that very interesting. So today, I say, and this is kind of when I wish the Minister of Health was here. No, I'm just teasing. But if we know that incivility and a toxic work environment is potentially causing increased work absenteeism, causing people to leave jobs, and then you think of the impact that has on clients and patient outcomes. We know it's been linked with adverse medical events, and we also know that it drives up the cost, because if you're covering work absenteeisms and you're orientating new people to your unit because of the fast turnover, why would this not be a concern to an employer? And why would this not be a concern to healthcare decision makers? So I don't want to be all negative. I want to bring to you today, because of the research that's been shown in the United States and because of the work that Roz Moore is doing, I truly believe, and I just don't say this with, coin a phrase, that Mission Possible, civility for all, it truly is a possibility. And I believe that being civil, because the research says it does, will increase productivity. It will help us to be healthier nurses and nurse practitioners, and we will have safer patients or clients. So in the next session, as the practice department, we have formulated 3 tabletop questions, and we are going to ask you to discuss and to write and to share, and there will be further direction on that. But strategies for creating a culture of civility. And the reason why should we be concerned about that? Not just because it's required of you by your nursing standards, but because relationships are the cornerstones of collaborative healthcare teams, and relationships are also the cornerstone of a therapeutic nurse-client relationship. How can we move forward with civility and this Mission Possible, civility for all? I believe it's by taking what you have heard today. I hope we've ignited a little spark, that it just won't stay in the Delta, but that you will take it back to your workplace, and that you'll be able to say, you know what, maybe I can't change everything immediately, but I can change who I am. I can look, because all of us can improve. I can think twice before I react in a negative way. I can maybe mentor or encourage that person that I've judged. Maybe they're from a different generation. But I believe it can start here in this room, like a warm candle that's been lit, and we can carry it around the province to our different workplaces. I also believe that with sharing today, that the NAMB can take your information, and we can continue to work at spearheading and encouraging and advocating for professionalism in nursing. And I thank you.